I'm Patrick Watson, I'm an astrologer, and you're watching Big Fat Astrovlog, and today I'm going to be delivering a monthly horoscope for all Taurus risings for the month of August 2018. I'm not talking about Taurus suns. This horoscope only applies to you if you were born when the tropical sign of Taurus was rising on the eastern horizon of the time and place for your birth. So if you're not sure what rising sign you have, you need to get your birth date, birth time, very important, and birthplace. Go to www.astro.com, create an account, put in your chart details, and you can find out what rising sign you have. So, the reason I'm able to tell what will happen in general for all Taurus risings is because of whole sign houses. The relationship of the zodiac signs to the ascending sign, the rising sign, tells us what parts of life they will affect. These are the 12 houses. So I have the topics of all the 12 houses written out here, and you can see in this circle, I have the planets, where they are on a given day. So this is August 1st. And you can see what those glyphs mean here. I have the sun, moon, Mercury, all of those things down there, as well as a one-word summary of what they kind of do. And then I know that the glyphs for the signs are kind of difficult as well. So I have those signs written out for each sector. So, without further ado, the first big thing that happens in August 2018 is there is a solar eclipse on August 11th at 18 Leo. So you can see here that here's the glyph for the sun, and you can see here's the glyph for the moon, and you can see they're together. Now I know it's an eclipse because they're within I forget what the exact separation is, but they're the right distance from the north node, their intersection point, for it to actually be a solar eclipse. I don't know if it's going to be visible for you or not, but even if they're not visible, they still have an impact in your chart. So we can see the sun and moon come together, and we can see that it's happening in Leo, and it's happening in your 4th house. And the 4th house concerns home, parents, privacy, your private life, your more like inner life. It's the part of life no one really gets to, you know, take part in, really, unless they're close to you. So, what we may be able to say about this is that the solar eclipse is the beginning of a new year-long narrative that pertains to home and parents and privacy and private life. Those are the topics that we'll kind of bring up. Now, if you have any planets in Leo, then obviously they will factor in as well. But that's basically what it means. It's the beginning of some kind of new narrative with regards to these topics. So the interesting thing to consider with this particular solar eclipse is the fact that it is very close to retrograde Mercury. So when we start off the month, Mercury is retrograde. It's already retrograde at 21 Leo, and it keeps going backwards through the zodiac. You can actually see it's going in the other direction of the sun until finally on August 19th it stations direct. Now, Mercury retrogrades are stereotypically associated with communication mishaps, misspeaking, miscalculations, losing things breaking, just technology going haywire, that kind of thing. And what I also find Mercury does in general is it kind of changes things up, but it also unsettles things. It makes it, usually there's like a question or a possibility that you're figuring out, and it's usually like in you know, something you're kind of going back and forth on, that you're uncertain about. And so we know that because this is happening in your 4th house, that there's some degree to which you will be thinking about some possibility with your home. Now, this could maybe be a move, or this could be like reevaluating kind of where you are and like what you call home. You know, is this time to move? Is this time for a change? Is this time to maybe move back to my parents? Like maybe, you know, maybe your parents need you to like move back, you know, with them or something. You know, there's some way in which these things are all kind of factoring in. Now, we know as well that this eclipse also involves a square, kind of a slightly wider square to Jupiter in the 7th. So this is also going to be factoring into what this eclipse is about. So with Mercury, there's a lot of uncertainty about kind of where you might be seated, like where you may be situated, and it may have to do with the parents. And then at the same time, it's square Jupiter in the 7th. And Jupiter in the 7th, the most kind of conventional interpretation of Jupiter in the 7th is luck and wealth and opportunity in relationships, especially like romantic relationships or weddings. And of course, so if you are anywhere near that, you know, kind of station in life, where you're either with someone or, you know, or you are going to be getting married, I mean, obviously, when you get married, those kinds of questions of like where you're going to live, you know, sometimes come up, and sometimes like deciding like how close or how far away you're going to be from your parents or your home base or, you know, your hometown or what have you. So that's what I would imagine this configuration is about with Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Jupiter. This is Jupiter. You can see it's right there. Yeah. So, next thing you should know about is there will be, let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so at the beginning of the month, Venus is in late Virgo. So at the beginning of the month, at least for the next, like for the first week of August, Venus will still be in your 5th house, which is the house of fun and pleasure and entertainment and children and creations, procreation. So Venus likes to go out to parties. You know, it's social in this house. Now, in this sign, it tends to be more transactional. So maybe you like to mix business and pleasure. But in any case, the entrance of Venus into the 6th house indicates that you will be having probably more pleasant social interactions with people at work. This may be a good time to kind of get chummy with co-workers. This may be a time where you're providing excellent service to people in your job, whatever you're like, because the 6th house is like work, but it's like more like your job, like what you do to earn money. It's not necessarily like what you dream of doing or what you think your purpose is, right? 6th house is kind of like, you know, the duties that you have. They're not necessarily things you want to do, but you kind of just have to do them. So Venus, for the rest of August, will be going through that house. And then it's not necessarily that great, but it isn't a good sign at least. Libra is one of its best signs. So this this may also indicate that like you may have really good interactions with people who are in a kind of service role towards you. So maybe like make really good connections with like, you know, I don't know, a waiter or a waitress, like going out to eat or something, like, or maybe just have really good connection, or you know, maybe start a new friendship with like yeah, someone who is in a kind of subordinate position to you. I hate using that kind of hierarchical language, but you know, that's what the 6th house tells us. I mean, you know, it used to be the house of slavery. Now it's just the house of employment, the ways in which you're of service to someone. You know, which we are still in the modern day, but yeah, it's not. Yeah. So that's, you know, Venus going through the 6th basically indicates, yeah, like nice, pleasant social interactions, potentially romantic, with you know, people in these situations and contexts of work and employment, or I guess even like your doctor, since there's this, you know, association with health, especially injuries and illnesses. So, you know, if you, I don't want you to get hurt, but if you do get hurt, then, you know, at least you get, I don't know, you know, meet a cute doctor or something. So there you go. That is what you can kind of expect for Venus going through your 6th. The next big thing you should know about is Mars is doing quite a lot during the month of August. So if we go to August 1st, we can see that Mars is retrograde in your 10th house of Aquarius. So your 10th house rules career, your reputation, bosses, authority figures, your calling, you know, your public life. So what's kind of interesting about this is I mean, this has been, Mars kind of brings antagonism and conflict kind of wherever it goes, doubly so when it's retrograde. So I would imagine for the past several months, this has been some sort of saga involving your career and bosses. So if you are in a contentious relationship with, your superiors right now, then, this is kind of, at least we're coming towards the end of that episode, because by August 13th, Mars regresses back into Capricorn. So this is going retrograde, so it's going backwards. So it's going back into Capricorn. So it's in a different house as well. So there should be a slight tonal shift where instead of being solely about, this whatever drama you've had in your career, that now it's having an impact on the part of your chart that deals with travel, religion, college, politics, culture, that sort of thing, philosophy. I'd imagine this is probably a time when you may get into a lot of Facebook debates. Mars in the ninth usually tends to be pretty combative, but kind of about like philosophical or abstract things. Clashes of values and ideologies and that sort of thing. Now, what's interesting is Mars will be stationing direct on August 27th. It will be on August 28th. August 28th is when Mars stations direct in your ninth. And so this could mean a few things. I mean, it could be, on the one hand, it's basically the conclusion of some sort of the ongoing hostilities that Mars has been presenting while it's been retrograde. But it also, it's kind of like making a statement. It's almost as since Mars doesn't really care what other people think. It doesn't kowtow to others. It's very it likes to separate and sever itself from others. So it's almost like, since it's in your ninth house, I'd almost think it would be like you saying, this is what I believe, and if you can't get along with this, then just I'm leaving, or I'm out, or you need to get out, or kind of like sort of like putting a full stop on what you're willing to tolerate as far as differences, and just kind of cutting off completely. So that's happening in the ninth house. If you are traveling in that time, then it could also be encountering troubles with either being like perceived as a foreigner, or being kind of like a foreigner in a foreign place. It can be kind of contentious potentially. So that is what I have to say about Mars in Capricorn in your ninth. Now, the last thing I have for this month is on August 27th, just the day before, there is on August 26th, I should say, there is a full moon at 3 degrees of Pisces, and this is happening in your 11th house. So that'll be starting a kind of 2-week period after that point of some sort of focus on networking and your acquaintances. Now, this is yearly. I mean, you have a full moon in your 11th house every year, so it might be worth it to go back, look in the ephemeris, and check when the moon was in Pisces while the sun was in Virgo, and kind of see what issues are brought forth. Because theoretically, the full moon in a house should be like throwing light and illuminating, the topics of that house. So, in general, the 11th is a fairly nice house, so it shouldn't be a bad full moon. And it's not in any major aspects, really, not any hard ones anyway, with the other planets. It does make a sextile to Uranus and Saturn, but it's kind of general. I couldn't really make a very specific statement about that. So, that's all I have to say about August 2018 full Taurus risings. If you liked this, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up, give it a share. If you're really awesome and you want to continue seeing these monthly horoscopes for your rising sign, you can definitely support me on Patreon, even if it's just $1. I will really, I won't turn you away, and I really appreciate it. And if you're curious to see what I have to say about your specific chart, I offer services on my website at www.bigfatastro.com. And if you would like to see what I would say about your chart on a budget, I have written out my custom interpretations of planets in every sign, house, and aspect. So you can buy that for $20. You just get an instant report once you put your details in. And so hopefully you find that interesting and useful. I hope you have a good August 2018. And let me know how it goes, and I will see you next time.